Breaking news. King Charles just walked into the House of Commons and did the unthinkable. He didn't just break protocol, he shattered the unspoken agreement between Crown and Parliament, leaving Prime Minister Keir Starmer visibly shaking at the dispatch box. MPs from all sides sat frozen, jaws slack, witnessing a moment that constitutional historians are already calling the death knell of the current government. Palace insiders report that the king made this decision in total isolation, bypassing his own advisors because he knew they would try to stop him. If you think you know how the British system works, forget everything. What happened in the last hour has rewritten the rules. If you want to know if Starmer survives the night, hit subscribe immediately because the mainstream media is terrified to touch the story we are about to break. Here is the moment the United Kingdom changed forever. At exactly 12:03 p.m., during what should have been a routine Prime Minister's questions, the doors to the chamber swung open. It wasn't Black Rod. It wasn't a ceremonial messenger. It was the king himself. He entered without fanfare, holding a single red folder. The silence that fell over the room was instant and terrifying. Witnesses described the atmosphere as electric, a vacuum where all political oxygen was suddenly sucked out. Starmer, who was mid-sentence deflecting a question about public spending, stopped dead. His face went ashen. He looked to the speaker, but the speaker was staring at the monarch, paralyzed. This was an intervention. King Charles walked to the center of the floor, ignoring the frantic whispers of the clerks. He didn't sit on a throne. He stood on the Commons floor, on the same level as the elected representatives, physically blocking the Prime Minister's line of sight. "Prime Minister," the king said, his voice low, but carrying to every corner of the silent hall. "The crown can no longer stand idle while the sovereignty of this nation is signed away in dark rooms." The accusation hauled the air like a guillotine blade. Labor frontbenchers looked down at their shoes. They knew exactly what he was talking about. This wasn't about policy. This was about a secret deal regarding national jurisdiction that Starmer had sworn didn't exist. But then, the king opened the red folder. The sound of the paper turning was the only noise in a room of 650 people. He pulled out a document stamped with the official seal of the European Commission and the Prime Minister's own private signature. "You told this House yesterday that no agreement had been reached," Charles stated, holding the paper up for the cameras. "Yet my sources confirm you signed this surrender of judicial oversight 3 days ago in Brussels." Starmer tried to speak, his mouth opening and closing, but no sound came out. It was a total humiliation. The camera caught the exact split second Starmer's authority evaporated. His eyes darted to his deputy, Angela Rayner, but she refused to meet his gaze. She was already distancing herself. The government wasn't just in trouble, it was being dismantled live on television. The fallout was immediate and violent. As the king held the proof of deception aloft, the conservative benches erupted in a roar of fury. Cries of "resign" and "traitor" drowned out the speaker's desperate pleas for order. But this wasn't just partisan noise. Even Labour backbenchers were seen shaking their heads, some looking physically sick. One veteran Labour MP was overheard whispering to a colleague, "He lied to us too. He lied to all of us." The betrayal was total. The king had exposed not just a political maneuver, but a fundamental breach of trust between the leader and the legislature. But the king wasn't finished. He didn't just present the document, he weaponized it. He began to read specific clauses from the secret text, clauses that explicitly overruled British courts in matters of trade disputes and border enforcement. With every sentence Charles read, another brick in the wall of Starmer's defense crumbled. "This text," the king declared, locking eyes with the Prime Minister, "transfers the final say on British laws to foreign judges. You have sold the rights of your people for political convenience." The moral weight of the moment was crushing. This was the head of state acting as the final failsafe against a rogue executive. It was a scene straight out of a political thriller, but it was happening in real life, to real people, with real consequences. Former cabinet ministers watching from the sidelines were stunned. Lord Mandelson, usually the master of spin, was reached for comment and simply said, "There is no playbook for this. The Prime Minister has been caught red-handed by the sovereign." Constitutional experts are already debating the legality of the king's move, but in the court of public opinion, the verdict was instantaneous. Social media lit up with the hashtag #TheKingKnows, trending worldwide within 10 minutes. The public saw a man standing up for them against a political class that views honesty as an optional extra. Starmer stood at the dispatch box, gripping the wood until his knuckles turned white, looking like a man watching his career burn to ash in front of his eyes. And here's what makes it worse for the government. The king didn't just expose a lie, he exposed a priority. While Starmer was secretly negotiating to hand over powers to Brussels, ordinary British citizens have been living through a nightmare of broken services and economic despair. The contrast between the Prime Minister's jet-setting secret diplomacy and the reality on the ground is sickening. Take the case of 74-year-old Eleanor Rigby from Sunderland. Eleanor worked as a nurse for 40 years. She paid her taxes, she followed the rules, she believed in the system. Last week, she was found freezing in her own flat because she couldn't afford to turn on the heating. Eleanor's story is the story of millions. While Starmer's government found the time and resources to fly legal teams to Brussels to sign secret treaties, Eleanor waited 14 hours for an ambulance that never came. Her son, David, told local news, "My mother gave everything to this country, and while she was freezing, the man in charge was selling us out." The interview is heartbreaking. It shows a woman wrapped in 3 blankets, shivering, asking why her country hates her. That is the reality this government has created, a reality where the needs of foreign bureaucrats are prioritized over the survival of British pensioners. The anger is palpable. In towns across the Midlands and the North, the mood has shifted from disappointment to rage. These are communities that voted for Brexit, not because of racism or ignorance, but because they wanted their voices to matter. They wanted their government to be accountable to them. Now, they watch as the king reveals that their prime minister has been actively working to reverse that accountability behind their backs. It is a slap in the face to every voter who believed in the democratic process. It is a confirmation of their worst fears, that the system is rigged and the people in charge despise them. We spoke to small business owners in Birmingham who are on the brink of bankruptcy due to rising energy costs and new regulations. "I can't pay my staff," said Mark, a bakery owner. "I'm closing my doors next week after 20 years, and I turn on the TV and see Starmer smiling in Brussels. It makes me want to scream." This is the disconnect. The political elite are playing games with sovereignty and treaties, while the economic engine of the country is stalling. The king's intervention didn't just expose a lie, it validated the suffering of the working class. It told them, you are not crazy, you are being betrayed. And then the unthinkable escalation happened. The king did not leave the chamber. He remained standing. He waited for the noise to die down. And then he delivered the ultimatum that has sent financial markets into a tailspin. Looking directly at the government front bench, King Charles said, "A government that deceives its parliament has lost its right to govern." He paused, letting the weight of those words sink in. "Mr. Starmer, you have 48 hours to bring this treaty to a full public vote, or I will exercise my prerogative to dissolve this parliament and return the mandate to the people." Gasps echoed through the chamber. The nuclear option. The power to dissolve parliament hasn't been used in this manner in centuries. It was a direct threat to the government's survival. The reaction was instant. The pound sterling plummeted 3% against the dollar in minutes. The FTSE 100 took a nosedive as investors realized the UK government is effectively paralyzed. City traders were seen screaming into phones, dumping UK assets. The stability of the nation is now in question. The king has effectively drawn a line in the sand. Tell the truth or lose your job. Inside Downing Street, the panic is absolute. Sources say Starmer's top aides are currently locked in a crisis meeting, screaming at each other. The blame game has begun. One junior minister has already leaked a text message from a senior cabinet member that reads, "It's over. He has to go." The unity of the Labour Party is shattering. Angela Rayner was seen leaving the chamber immediately after the king's speech, refusing to walk with the prime minister. The vultures are circling. If Starmer cannot regain control within hours, his own party will remove him before the king even has to act. This is a leadership collapse of biblical proportions. The authority of the prime minister depends on the confidence of the House and the crown. He has lost both in the span of 60 minutes. Political analysts are saying that even if he survives the night, he is a dead man walking. He cannot govern. Every time he stands up to speak, the image of the king holding that red folder will be burned into the minds of the public. He has been branded a liar by the highest authority in the land. There is no coming back from that. So where does this leave us? We are staring down the barrel of a general election that nobody planned for, but everyone suddenly wants. Nigel Farage has already issued a statement from a rally in Essex declaring the king has done what the opposition failed to do. He has exposed the rot. Farage's Reform UK party is seeing a massive surge in membership applications. Their website crashed 10 minutes after the king's speech. The people are looking for an alternative, and the establishment parties are looking more fragile than ever. The next 48 hours will decide the fate of the nation. Will Starmer try to fight the king? Will he try to claim the monarch is overstepping? If he does, he risks a constitutional crisis that could tear the country apart. Or will he buckle, release the full text of the secret treaty, and face the wrath of the public? The streets are already filling up. Protests are forming around Parliament Square. The chant, "Let us vote," is ringing out. This isn't just politics anymore. This is a popular uprising fueled by royal intervention. We are entering uncharted territory. The old rules are gone. The veil has been lifted. We know now that the government has been operating in the shadows, and we know that the king is willing to shine a light on it. But here is the terrifying question that nobody is answering. What else are they hiding? If they lied about this treaty, what else is in those red folders? What other deals have been signed without your consent? You need to be ready. The revelations coming out tomorrow are rumored to be even more damaging. Sources inside the palace suggest the king has more documents. Documents that link the current economic crash directly to government negligence. If those papers see the light of day, it won't just be Starmer resigning. We could be looking at criminal charges. The establishment is shaking. The people are waking up, and we will be here to cover every second of it. Do you think the king was right to intervene, or has he gone too far? Tell us in the comments. This is history in the making, and you are part of it. Stay tuned.